Okay, so this is the regional greenhouse gas inventory. We're looking at 2015 and 2010 emissions by sector. Again, I apologize if I start coughing. I haven't been coughing all day. Now I am, of course. So we've been working on this inventory for several years now. And we're looking at 2010 emissions in green and 2015 emissions in orange. What you can see here is that the majority of emissions come from stationary energy. And I'll talk a little bit about what that is in a minute. But we're also looking at transportation. IP&R is industrial processes and refrigerants, waste. And then AFLOU is, and I had to write this down so I would remember it, agriculture, forestry, and other land use. Sorry, somebody's, oh gosh, we have a little mistake in the inventory that IPR and waste need to be switched, which actually makes a lot of sense to me when you look at the other parts of the inventory. Thanks, Tori, for pointing that out. So if you want to go to the next slide, Anna. Here we're looking at the emissions from the stationary energy, and the majority of those are coming from the built environment. That's basically our buildings, right? And that's why, as the executive director of the Missouri Gateway Green Building Council, I'm so concerned about this slide. But I also see that there's a lot of opportunity, and hopefully we'll hear from our presenters a little bit more about some of those opportunities. Sorry, again, why I am coughing right now and wasn't coughing all day. Anyway, so you can actually see that our emissions overall did decrease between 2010 on the left and 2015 on the right. And they decreased in the stationary energy section. And that's primarily due to focus on efficiency in our buildings and efficiency of the grid and more renewable energy coming online. Now, that does force the other sectors to go up. So transportation has gone up, and also the industrial processes and refrigerants have gone up between those 2 years. Taking a deeper dive, if you want to look at the next slide, at where these stationary energy emissions come from, we're pretty much talking about electricity and natural gas in our buildings. So on the left, we're looking at 2010 and 2015 emissions from electricity, on the right from natural gas. And you can see that it's coming from residential, manufacturing, and commercial and institutional buildings. And I think this is part of the reason why we're seeing through the Inflation Reduction Act such a strong focus on policies and tax deductions and programs that focus on buildings. Next slide. I don't want to neglect our second highest sector of emissions, which is transportation. We see that in that 2010 emissions, we've got 19% from transportation, and 2015, 22.7%. So that is, like I said earlier, going up just a little bit. And just to take a little bit of a deeper dive in terms of where those transportation emissions are coming from, you can go to the next slide, Anna. On the left, we're looking at basically all the transportation emissions overwhelmingly coming from on-road. These are cars and trucks, right? The things that we're driving to and from work, things that we're, transporting across the country in big trucks, that sort of thing. And then on the right, most of the fuel moving those trucks and cars is from gasoline. I don't know that this is a surprise to anyone, but it's nice to see this kind of high level overview when we talk about the kinds of things that we might be able to do to reduce our impact. So next slide, I just want to say a couple of thank yous to Renee, Julie with St. Louis University, and Tori Cheatham from Renew Missouri. They have been working tirelessly on this report Renee has been working on the data for many years, gathering data from all the different sources and doing that data analysis and putting all of this together. And Tori has done a fantastic job with the graphic design, making the report very readable for people. And hopefully that's posted either already or very soon on the 1STL website. And also thanks to Erin and Anna with East West Gateway for helping move this process forward, and Phil Valco, who's my co-chair of the 1STL Energy and Emissions Working Group. And with that, I will turn it back over to the group to get us started on the discussion of environmental justice. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Emily. And that report should be, we will upload it to the energy and emissions page of 1stl.org soon. So hopefully soon after this lab. And next, we will hear from Beth Gutzler of Metropolitan Congregations United. If you don't mind sitting here so the people online can see you. But I'll control the slides from here. All right, can everyone hear me? Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for having me today at this particular meeting, just to start the conversation one more time. But for some people, it's usually sometimes the first time around thinking about environmental justice, thinking about social justice issues as they relate to this topic. And so what I wanted to do was just take a minute to really frame what we're all going to be highlighting today, which is the topic of what I call EJ. So if I abbreviate, I want to clarify, I'll try not to, but when we're talking about environmental justice, it's the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of any people. So all of the classifications of potential discrimination, with the respect for not just the development, but the implementation and the enforcement of environmental laws, their regulations, and also the policies that we put in place, from the very small thing in our homes and our schools to the very large things in our city. So for us, we started to try to make some graphics to describe what we mean by the umbrella of environmental justice. So when we were working in community over the last couple of years, our work started in 2020 after the reading of the Washington University Environmental Racism Report that was published in 2019. And the conversations were very broad. They were from flooding to polluted water and lead in water, to concerns about just lack of green space, and all the way to the things that were just highlighted, our particular concerns about the emissions that are and things coming out of our facilities. And the reason why we chose to do this as a campaign is how it connected to everything else. So on the next slide is how we saw environmental justice connecting to some of the other social justice issues that Metropolitan Congregations United was talking about on an ongoing basis with congregations. So I'll back up for a second. Metropolitan Congregations United sometimes is referred to as MCU, and we are an affiliate of a Gamaliel grassroots faith-based organizing network. So when you hear me talk about congregational work, that's our main focus. We also do community, other types of work, but that's where we usually start, is inside the churches. And so in listening campaigns and other areas, we heard stories about illegal dumping. We had housing issues, but then it rolled back into, oh, well, we had to leave early, self-evict, because there was mold in our home. We had concerns about food apartheid and eating healthy as one way to help with asthma situations that are going on. So for us, this particular environmental justice campaign really did help us look at the same zip codes that were impacted by other issues like the break to school to prison pipeline, and try to connect the dots of how it's all related. So for me, when I started as the lead environmental justice organizer, I was able to pick one area to start with first through our community-based air quality monitoring. So when I would talk to people about community-based air quality monitoring, I would frame it in why this is important to us, right? So MCU, our goal is to put our faith values into action. So this was one of them. A lot of churches already have this foundational value of caring for creation and future generations. We had the opportunity to bring them along, and I'll talk about a couple stories of congregations and leaders that were doing something a little bit above and beyond than just holding a monitor. And these opportunities were complemented by our national training efforts. And then also, we wanted to actually make a public policy change. So I could speak a little bit about things that we have been able to do and things that we want to do. So at the moment, this clean air work can be housed on an actual website where you can see ongoing data about particulate matter 2.5. This is where our partnership with Washington University through the MFH grant was really an opportunity for us to look at this one first. And so the graph on the left is all of those particular monitors from the webpage. There's a place to get information and also a place for you to report if you have an odor or smell, real hands-on way for people to talk about this. And then the graph on the left, the graph on the right is we had so many congregations that were interested in getting more involved and learning more that we started to partner with others to do purple air monitors and build out that map as well. And now, as we start to see the results of this, there's interest for us. If we're having a green day, why is our breathing still so bad? If our standards are to the standards of what EPA has at the moment, why are we still having to go to the hospital for asthma? And so they really started to want to learn more about VOCs, ozone, and other things through our community meetings. So one of the things that resonates the most through these actual meetings with some of them are just with a team, like a green team within a congregation. Others are actually like a neighborhood association type meeting. And when we present the results that we're finding, this slide is the one that everyone asks the most questions about. How is air pollution affecting my health? How is the inability for us to sustain a healthy environment actually going to impact me? And so it resonates with them that for this one, particulate matter 2.5 can go directly into your lungs. So they just continually get motivated around that concern. So I did want to take some time to talk about one particular meeting that we had most recently. This is a picture of a monitor that's up at St. Anne Catholic Parish in Normandy, Missouri. This is a congregation that just had a meeting. And one of the things that they were really concerned about were these red days. So for those, I think almost probably everybody on this call understands AQI, understands red day, yellow day, green day. But for me, that's the language that I speak when I first started to talk about these concerns to a group. And it's very easy and digestible for them to look at this graph of the data of their own community and say, what in the world has been going on? And so they ask themselves lots of great questions that day. They ask themselves, is it because we have a school and the cars are idling? Is that what's going on? Is that what makes us different? And then they started thinking back, oh, that's when they were repaving the runway at the airport. So the airplanes were all going over in a different path. And then they just continued this conversation throughout the whole time, because I went to the next slide and they saw themselves in the upper left-hand corner to still be significantly higher than all of the other congregations that are holding monitors. So they started to ask themselves, what do we want to do? Do we want to do a non-idling campaign? Should we just get more involved in this because there's about to be construction next door and there could be asbestos in the building? These were just the topics that came up over and over again. So for me, I just wanted to spend some time today talking about the examples of past the data collection phase to the phase of communities starting to realize that they need to do something together to make change. I think about the one particular congregation at Sacred Heart Catholic Parish in Valley Park. They actually have a long-term green team, but one of their leaders, Karen Rothery, she was communicating with another community leader about this upcoming planning and zoning commission. And they were concerned about this meeting because they were about to give a permit to put a new incinerator. And both of them, through Karen's education and putting up the purple air monitor at the congregation, the other leader just being involved in it for months and months, they knew they had to do something. So they used Nextdoor app and actually had 100 people in this little meeting, almost had to shut the place down, and finally resulted in the process just being stopped. And they knew for a fact that at least the incinerator, this gasifier facility, was not going to go in their community. So whether it be a large action like that, which is to me an example of environmental justice, or just getting people to the point where they're signing a petition. 500 people or more have signed the 2 petitions that have gone out since May of 2022, or just beginning to share their story with others. And I put the link of the videos that we've been able to partner with of some of the second round, this purple air monitoring installation, where they've done a great job on this it's mostly TikTok. There's also links as well, telling the story about what it was like and why they wanted to be part of this citizen science. So I'll highlight just for a few more minutes that our environmental justice work at MCU hasn't been limited to just air quality. We've been able to do some coalition work with partners to pass the Get Out the Lead Water Act. It was last session in 2022 that created the new policy to make sure that all Missouri schools statewide, K through 12, do regular testing for lead, and if found, they must remediate. Part of that legislation, I think, helped go through because we allocated through the work, 27 million was allocated to help with the remediation costs we knew were going to come from these testing. And now we're to the point where we're working on implementation, where if, we're always advocating for filter first as a way to make sure that this continues to promote growth in our whole really statewide community. We like to think of things also in reference to clean land. So like I said earlier, illegal dumping is the visual thing that you can see from environmental justice. It's hard to see the pollution nowadays. The water, people always say it tastes good, it smells good, it must be fine. But illegal dumping, you cannot ignore. So some of the petition efforts on that resulted, or may not directly resulted in Proposition F last year, passed on August 2nd. And that started to increase the fine from $500 to $1,000 if you get caught, and as a one particular step towards especially the tires, and the idea that at least now it's not cheaper to illegally dump in impacted communities than it is to actually recycle the way that the haulers are supposed to. So we're excited to continue this conversation in 2024 around how do we really stop the dumping of large tires in our impacted communities. So I guess I will stop there and give opportunity for questions. It's our communications of the 3 of us that are continuing to work on and specialize in this area.
Thank you so much, Beth. And if it's all right, we might wait for questions and discussion till the end, if that's all right. And well, I guess you have to leave, right?
At 4:30, if that's early, yeah.
Okay, we'll see. Let's see. Maybe since Beth does have to leave at 4:30, are there any pressing questions for MCU right now? Just to check.
Some of the findings that few of the slides bring out the fact that there's health concerns and how things that are connected to some of the happenings that aren't in the space. Are you out working with any of the health plans to see if there could be a potential for coordinating efforts and work to address those issues?
Yeah, one of the things that's really developed is maybe we shouldn't just be monitoring or increase monitoring a particular amount of 2.5, but maybe it's ozone as well. Maybe it's a combination of the two. So that's one of the first conversations that we started having with WashU and other partners. The second conversation that is just starting to build a coalition of people that meet regularly. So I know that the Lung Association, Laura Turner, is one of our newest members to every other month, a monthly group that comes together to just say, where is all this work trending? Where should we continue to have this discussion? And I heard that WashU has a public health school that should be starting very soon. So who knows what the potential is to continue to partner with that great organization.
Can you talk a little bit about just the challenges of working in Missouri, where the legislature is so anti-regulation, we have some of the dirtiest energy in the country. How do you sort of, I'm amazed that you've gotten these things passed, as these are state regulations, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of working in the state level?
For me, the thing is always in our MCU work is finding shared values. And so that's, if we go into any meeting or any type of organizing, and that's our focus, it helps a lot. So when we think about work that we might be asking for from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, no matter who's in charge, everybody would want transparency. Because even if the tides would turn, they would want transparency as well. And so we think about that, even though we don't have a ballot initiative for environmental justice concerns at the moment. And what if we did one day, right? Protecting the ballot initiative is one way of, no matter what side you're on, that's a process that we should all have value in and respect. And so continuing to think about things, it might get a little political when we don't have a governor who appoints, commissioners from all areas or leaves vacant spots. That's when you start to think about, okay, we need a candidate who will, at least, no matter what party they're part of, do their job and not leave vacant spots and make sure everyone's represented. That hopefully is a shared value no matter what party line you're on. So that's the best approach that we've had so far.
We have one raised hand online too. Carlton Stock, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, can you hear me? I thought I was unmuted. You can't hear me? No? It shows that I'm unmuted. I'm not sure what else to do. I could put it in the chat.
We can hear you on Zoom and they can hear you in the room. You're good to talk.
Oh, okay, good. It's really not a question. It's just a statement. I just thought it was interesting that the air quality in St. Louis yesterday and today was in the orange category. That's, I think, sensitive populations. I just don't, it was on the news weather that way. I just don't remember that being in that category very much, or maybe I wasn't paying attention. Anyhow, you were talking about air quality, Beth, and we're in kind of bad air quality these 2 days. So I just wanted to point that out. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, so the last 2 days have specifically been poor air quality for ozone. So for us, that is really interesting because when we had all these conversations around particulate matter, that was something that you could put an N95 on and you could still go mow your yard or protect yourself. With ozone, you just have to limit your outside time. And that's a whole different issue for communities. And the reason why you might not have seen it before is because from what I'm understanding, St. Louis has always been in non-attainment for years. But most recently, we have gone from marginal non-attainment for ozone to moderate, which is a worse level. So we're going to see and trend having even more days like this. And so there's efforts by East West Gateway and others to just increase the communication to the public so that they understand that those 8, 9, I make it real personal, 8, 9 hours at the pool is not really good on an orange or a red day, that we need to think about things completely different if we want to protect ourselves.
Any other questions for Beth? Okay, well, thank you so much, Beth. Thanks for all the work you do. And I know the small organizations you work with at MCU also do a lot of great work. So thank you. And we'll go ahead and hear from our next speaker, Jalen Williams from United Congregations of Metro East. They do similar work, but on the east side of the river in Illinois.
Right. All right. Hello, everyone. Okay. So my organization that I'm work for is United Congregations of Metro East. And like Beth previously said, we're also a part of that familial national network that she's a part of. And so her organization and our organization collaborate a lot and kind of have like a brother-sister relationship in sorts. And so I say that to say we do a lot of our base building through congregations also. And a lot of the work that we do and leaders we find are in congregations. And going to the next slide. Just more so recently, more of the work that we've been doing, a lot of it has been pertaining to CEJA, which is the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act that got passed in Illinois last year. And we are also doing some net Z work, which is trying to get to zero emissions. It kind of has some alignment with CEJA also, but it's a separate thing. And then lastly, we're working on our Rise Up campaign, which is a new campaign that myself and the EJ team, Environmental Justice team at UCM has started to develop and work on. And so with CEJA, this takes up a lot of our time because we're a part of 2 of the planning committees that are tasked with helping with implementation of what CEJA is. And so CEJA, the goal of CEJA is to get clean, to have Illinois on a path to renewable energy 100% by 2050. And along with that, while we're making these changes to make sure that economically, communities that have historically been marginalized also have an opportunity to have a chance at these new jobs, these new clean energy jobs that are being developed and are able to like receive proper training and all of those things, all these different things that not everyone necessarily thinks of when a big thing like this gets passed. And so a lot of the work I do currently is just working on the implementation of those things, finding other community-based organizations that can help with this is a real specific example, like there's a jobs and economic justice sector that I'm a part of. And a lot of that, a portion of that is dealing with returning residents, people that were formerly incarcerated, and seeing how we can get them involved in jobs like this. And so we're trying to find, within the last year, people involved in CEJA have hosted listening sessions where they've heard opinions and, some of the barriers that people have faced. And so like they're vast, they go from like not having transportation to not having childcare. And so a lot of the work that we do is finding other community-based organizations that can help us, overcome those barriers so that these individuals have opportunities to receive the proper training to get these jobs. And CEJA is big, but that's just like one part that I specifically work on. And so I wanted to stress that because it's so much bigger than what I'm just talking about, but that's what I can speak about personally. And then moving on to Net Z, which aligns with CEJA, kind of, it's more focused on erasing diesel emissions from trucking vehicles and big vehicles, and trying to get Illinois to get more to electric vehicles by as per norm by 2050. And so with Net Z specifically, I'm hosting listening sessions in different regions, raising awareness about this bill that we're trying to get the governor to pass. And if we get him to sign it, it's basically just a bill where he's agreeing to try to invest more into electric vehicles. And also while we're doing that, along this timeline that's progressing, we're trying to, the vehicles that aren't EV yet, trying to get them under more regulation in that time frame. And that's what most of Net Z is really centered around. And again, we're hosting listening sessions just to raise awareness about that still currently. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on our Rise Up campaign, which is where we're heading towards in the future. And so we're planning for it to be a 2-year campaign, with the first year focusing on smaller wins and on a municipal level and everything. And so we've targeted like smaller wins because of stuff that we've encountered being a part of CEJA, like this big thing that's received federal funds and it's kind of hit this blockage of a wall. Because I guess I should have mentioned at the point in CEJA's timeline, the way it was initially planned out, a lot of the training and stuff was supposed to have started to roll out this summer. And unfortunately, we're not there at that point yet. And so myself and the team at UCM have decided that on a personal organizational level, we want to try to see what we can attempt to do to, reach that that goal that we're looking for, I'm struggling to find the right word right now, but the goal that we're looking for with CEJA. And so with that, the policy demands that we're looking for within the first year are really just small scale. We're looking for to build like community sovereignty. And through that, we're looking to try to do solar projects mainly, because that's a big thing that a lot of community members in regions that I work in are facing. They struggle with energy and just, rate hikes and everything. And then food sovereignty also, because it's not many places over there where people can get to grocery shop one, and then even if they wanted healthier options, there's even less. And so that's where we're heading on. That's what we're focusing on for the rest of this year and continuing on into next year. And then onto year 2, we're looking to focus more on bigger, more statewide legislative things that we can try to attack. And at that point, I will have a better understanding of what year 2 looks like based off of how year 1 goes, because through year 1, we're also doing a bunch of base building with specific communities in the Metro East area. And I think that and then yes, I put my email up here, my work email for contact purposes for anyone, but yes.
Thank you very much, Jalen. Yeah,
Yes.
once again, great work. Very glad to hear about it.
Yes.
And are you able to stay
Yeah, I'm
until
able to
later
stay.
for questions? So we'll go ahead and move to Craig Washington's presentation with the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis. Craig Washington works with their weatherization program. And so unfortunately, our technology isn't working out today that we can be unmuted while our online participants are unmuted. So I'm going to go ahead and mute us. So you won't be able to hear us, but hopefully you'll be able to hear Craig. So thank you so much for coming today, Craig.
Good afternoon. How's everybody this afternoon? Great, I hope. Well, yeah, I'm Craig Washington with the weatherization program here at the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis. And this program is great as it pertains to the topics that you're talking about, because what our program does is we go in and we weatherize homes to make them more energy efficient. Well, also by making the home more energy efficient, one of the things we do is with gas appliances, we put in new energy efficient gas appliances. Well, with those gas appliances being more energy efficient, one of the things that it does is it stops the emissions of the bad gases that the older appliances tend to emit into the atmosphere. So what happens is, we all know that one of the byproducts of a gas fire is carbon dioxide and the other bad gases. So with our new energy efficient appliances, what it does is it reduces the emissions of those gases almost to minuscule amounts. And then what it also does is the way that they are emitted to the atmosphere, they're filtered even more. So what happens is, it's almost like we reduce the emissions of the bad gases and things like that almost to none. As a matter of fact, with our weatherization program, one of the things we do is when we weatherize a home, it can reduce the emissions of carbon dioxide by 2.65 metric tons per year. And that's a considerable amount. One of the other things we do too is that's on the gas appliances. What I want to say, even with us, when we do new central air, or even if it's a situation where we put in new window units, what they are is all of these are Energy Star rated. And even now with our central air systems, what happens is we're now the coolants, where it used to be everybody knew that, when you had to get a charge with the Freon, where there's no more of that. Our systems, what they're charged with, is an environmentally friendly, we won't call it, but it's environmentally friendly that we use to cool the home. So that pertains directly to what we're trying to do. Our weatherization program is an excellent program. We go in, one of the things we do too is we want to insulate the home to save the clients money. So what we do is we use what we call a blown cellulose, and even our cellulose is energy efficient, that we put in attics and that we put into the walls when we dispack the walls and things like that. So our weatherization program is a totally free program. It's a finance-based program. It's based on the income in the home as far as it pertains to the number of people in the home. When we say that it is geared towards the elderly and disabled, if you get Social Security or any type of a Social Security disability, you're pretty much almost guaranteed to apply for qualify for the program. It's a very extensive program. We evaluate the windows, we evaluate the doors. When we're evaluating the windows and the doors, one of the things that we're doing is, I'll tell everybody, how you put a hat on your head when it's cold to keep from losing the cold in your head. But what we want to do is we want to do even more than putting a hat on the head. So what we're doing is by going in and evaluating windows and doors, sealing those doors, making sure that we keep your energy inside of the home. It's almost like keeping a coat on the home. So then once again, what we're doing is we're stopping the emissions of those bad gases and those bad carbons from getting into the atmosphere. Our program has been around since 1977. The weatherization program has serviced over 190,000 homes in the state of Missouri. We're very proud here at the Urban League. We're one of the leaders in the weatherization program. We eat, sleep, and drink this stuff when it comes to energy efficiency. It doesn't make a difference. We do service only homes in the city of St. Louis. If you happen to have a home in St. Louis County, that would be Community Action Agency. And it doesn't make a difference where you stay in the state of Missouri. The program is available. You just need to find the agency, you know what I mean, that would service your home. As I said, we do homes in the city of St. Louis. As I say, what it is, it starts off with what we call an energy audit. The analogy that I like to use is like when you take your car to the dealer to get it worked on. You know how you have the first guy that comes to the car and he's got the khakis and the shirt on, and he puts the car on the computer, and the computer says that you need brakes, or the computer says that you need an alternator. But what happens is our auditor is the guy that puts your home on the computer. We do very extensive testing. We do blower doors. We test the furnace. We test the hot water tank. We're testing these appliances for efficiency. We test them for health and safety. We even go as far as doing what we call a CAS. Well, what we want to do is we want to put your home in the worst case scenario to try to make these appliances operate in a negative aspect to make sure that your health and safety is taken care of. Now, depending on how we evaluate these appliances, we can do anything from general maintenance on the appliances to actually replacing the appliances. And I can tell you that with our housing stock here in the city of St. Louis, with the majority of homes being over 100 years old, probably 80, 85 to well over 90% of the homes, we end up putting in new energy efficient furnaces. So one of the things I can tell you, like a typical furnace, if you think about it, I'll use my mom. So she had an older furnace, and what would happen is, this pertains to when I talk about the carbon monoxide and the emissions. So what would happen is you got a fire inside of the furnace, and what would happen is that fire would heat the chamber up and heat the air in that chamber to probably 200 or 300 degrees. Then at that point, a blower would come on and blow that air into the home. And then that air in the home would be where if you had your thermostat set at 75, it would get the house to 75 degrees. So one of the things we do that now makes it more energy efficient, well, when you set your thermostat, you got your thermostat set to 72. There's no reason to heat that chamber to 300 degrees. There's no reason to use all of that energy. So our energy efficiency furnaces typically only heats that chamber to maybe 100, 125 degrees at the most. Okay, so, you know, that drastically cuts down the amount of energy. Also, that drastically cuts down to the amount of carbon dioxide that we're creating. It's the same thing with, we also put it with our hot water tanks. You have the same thing where you have the gas fire up underneath the tank that's going to heat the tank up to a certain degree. But what happens is now with our energy efficiency, there's no reason to heat that water up to 200 or 300 degrees. You know, the way that we heat the water, it takes less energy to get that water heated. So, as I said, our program is very extensive. To qualify for the program, it's the individual that qualifies for the program, but it's actually the home that we work on. I like to tell our clients, you don't even need to be there for us to do what we do with the home. We do things called blower doors, where we put a canvas up to the door and we create an extreme breeze to try to identify the places in the home where you're losing the most energy. We're looking around the windows, we're checking around the doors, the attic, the basements, and things like that for us to go in to seal to create the energy saving opportunities. One of the other big things we do is that I like to mention is we're also very big on replacing the incandescent bulbs with LED energy efficient bulbs. I can tell you myself in my home, when I went in and I just replaced the incandescent bulbs with the LED energy efficient bulbs, it lowered my bill $35 a month off the bat. Okay, And then, of course, with the LED bulbs, they're more environmentally friendly. It's very easy to qualify for the program. It's based on the person, not the home. It doesn't make a difference whether you're renting the home or you own the home. You can qualify for the homes. We can do units. Right now, we can do units up to 4 individual units under the same building. I can tell you that there are oftentimes, well, when we go into situations like that, if it's a 4-family flat, it may be a situation where we actually end up giving them 4 furnaces and 4 hot water tanks. So as I said, the last thing I'm going to do is I can tell you that I've been doing this now 10 years. I can remember that I went into a home where I had an elderly gentleman who was about 84 years old. His Social Security was about $900 a month. In the months of November, December, and January, his energy bills was running almost $700 a month. To talk to this guy, he's like, in those months, he's struggling, do I pay my bill? Do I get my medicine, food? But what happens is by the time we came in and we weatherized the home to make it energy efficient, his bills went from $600 or $700 a month down to almost $150, $160 a month. So it's an excellent program. We're very proud of it. It's very easy to qualify. We're now located at a prime spot. We're in the old Sears building on Kings Highway. For people who have to be on public transportation, there are 3 different buses that you can get here. We're centrally located. We're open from 8 to 5. You really don't have to have an appointment to come in and get service. I think we got a great staff, myself and Mr. Story, Erica Williams to come in. We will guide you by the hand with the application process. And we leave nothing, no stone unturned. If you happen to be somebody that's disabled and you're not mobile, we will come to you, to bring you the application to get the documentation that you need to get qualified for the program. So, as I said, we're very proud of it. I think it directly relates to what you guys are trying to do with this council. And that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Yep.
And now I know, Chef, one of the things that she mentioned is that other agencies, I know sometimes now, we don't do roofs, unfortunately. I know that the city of St. Louis has a healthy home repair program, that if you have problems with roofs, you could go to them. I'm working on it. I'm hoping to get it to the point that we can do roofs. We will work on moisture issues, depending on how bad the moisture issue is. Just real quick to let you know, the moisture issue is very pertinent because I don't know if you guys realize that with moisture issues, if you get moisture in your home where it has no place to escape, that actually creates mold. And mold, it's just bad. It's just a totally unhealthy situation. So that's the reason that we will work with moisture. I can also tell you that I've had some conversations with the Asthma Readiness Asthma Foundation. One of the things that we do with that for health and safety issues is one of the things we do when I tell you when we put the canvas up, what we want to do is we want to make sure that every house has what we call a natural air exchange. So what happens is I want to say every hour you should have fresh air going in and stale air coming out. Well, sometimes with homes, you don't get that natural air exchange. So the analogy that I like to use is, how you may cook fish on Friday and still Monday or Tuesday, you still smell the fish. Well, that could be not only with the vapors and things getting into the fabrics, but that could be that you're not getting the natural air exchange that you need. And we do something called mechanical ventilation that we put in the home that gives you that natural air exchange. Even things where you want to know you'll dust your house on Saturday and Tuesday and Wednesday, it seems like you haven't dusted. You may not be getting that natural air exchange. So that's one of the things that we come in is with mechanical ventilation for health and safety. So as I said, I can't speak enough about the program. It's based on the amount of income to the number of people in the home. She's put up the slide. That's the page that's available on our website. That page, I'm not sure if there's a number that's available, but what I can do is if anybody wants to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. You can just call the Urban League main number, 314-615-3600, and ask for weatherization, and you'll either be transferred to myself or Ms. Williams, and we're very glad to walk you through the process. And that's my spiel.
Thank you very much, Craig. And I see that Paige from Ameren also shared that Ameren has funds to help with items like mold mitigation, including roof repair. They said Ameren funds can also be used to help with energy efficient appliances, including AC units and furnaces. Ameren Pays and also Community Savers, which is the income qualified program. And then of course, someone said great presentations, Beth, Jalen, and Craig, and I would second that. And I did want to share one last slide since we're talking about energy efficiency and weatherization. Let's see if I can find it. Many people on the call are probably already aware of this, but in case you're not aware, there are tax credits and soon to be rebates as well for home energy efficiency projects. So if you're thinking about maybe replacing an appliance, or if one goes out in the next few years, it's just a good idea to keep these in mind because you can save money on weatherization and energy efficiency. The last thing that I wanted to mention is that, as I mentioned before, 1STL is working on a regional climate action plan. And so we hope that you'll stay in touch with us throughout the planning process, but also afterwards with our active working groups and contribute any shovel-ready projects, ideas, or suggestions that you have for the plan. And my email is up there. And then I did want to open it up to questions as well. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording, but welcome anyone to online or in person to ask questions.